Hey, happy Friday, everybody. This is Jeff Gibby. I'm with MetaStock. As Renee told you, I've worked here for well, in March it was 20 years. So it's a great place to work. Absolutely love it here. And I started, just to kind of give you a little bit of background, we're starting a little bit late, and I'm not going to run over. So just to give you a little bit of background on me, I started here in Inside Sales, and we developed a software program called MetaStock. And right now I'm in charge of developing the business internationally and globally. It's been a lot of fun. I enjoy it. And one of the things I enjoy a lot is I get to work with a lot of the experts. In fact, I've done a lot of work with Vince Vora, who's coming right up in just a few minutes. Let's go ahead and get started. That's a little bit about me. I have to read this out loud to you. Today's demonstration is designed to instruct you on using MetaStock and accompanying software plugins. It's not a recommendation to buy or sell, but rather guidelines to interpreting and using specific indicators and features within the software. Information, software, and techniques presented today should only be used by investors who are aware of the risk inherent in trading, and MetaStock shall have no liability for any investment decisions based on the use of the software, any trading strategies, or any information provided in connection with the company. Moving on. I hope you enjoyed that part. A little bit about MetaStock. We're not going to spend a lot of time on this, but I want you to understand we're a company that's been in business since 1982. When I started was 94. No, I'm sorry, 97. I should be able to do 20 years. But we were, at that point, wholly owned by Thomson Reuters. And we still have a really good partnership with Reuters. We bought ourselves back from Thomson Reuters about 4 or 5 years ago, basically. And we have a good relationship with them still. If you're not familiar with Thomson Reuters, they're a $17 to $20 billion a year company. They do a lot of reporting. They have a lot of news reporters that are out there in the field. And we use basically their data and the data that they sell literally to institutions, to hedge funds, to bank traders. We use it to power our software. And in fact, if you're a MetaStock real-time subscriber, you get access to basically the same platform that they spent over $1 billion designing right in the institutional marketplace. So it's a fairly cool place to work. One of the things I do like to talk about because, well, it's cool. The last 24 years in a row, that is every year since 1993, I think, we have been rated the best software in our prize category. And really what we focus on is technical analysis and allowing you to test trading ideas, see what works in the market. And that's really what we're going to talk about today. There's a lot of stuff we're not going to talk about today. I'm not going to show you like all of the news and the information. I mean, bottom line is we've got about 30 minutes to make this thing happen. And so let's just kind of, I need to kind of scale it back just to not overwhelm you with the stuff that's in there. I want to talk to you a little bit. We're going to kind of talk about 3 major things today. We're going to talk about what I think is the importance of having a trading plan. I'm going to actually kind of talk to you about what a trading system or a trading methodology looks like. I'll show you how to use the MACD. And then I'm going to show you kind of how to evaluate how, there's a lot of methods that are out there. There's 100 or 200 indicators that are actually in MetaStock. So how do you kind of evaluate to see, okay, well, what works best for me? It isn't necessarily a one-size-fits-all type of a scenario. What's going to work for me in the marketplace, considering the fact that, your situation and your mileage might be a little bit different than mine. The amount of time you want to spend trading might be a little bit different than the amount of risk you're willing to take on. It might be a little bit different. So kind of help you figure out exactly how to identify which of those methods kind of work best in the marketplace. So in any case, I do want to say 2 things. First of all, though, before we get started, thanks for having me, Investor Inspiration, and thanks for joining me, you guys. It's a nice Friday afternoon, middle of summer. You could be at the lake, but you decided to come and visit with us. So I appreciate that, and I'm glad you're here. First of all, I want to talk a little bit about the importance of having a trading plan. I'm going to kind of go real quick through this story, but it's a pretty cool story nonetheless. Spend a little bit more time on it when I have a little bit more time. But this is, in case you don't know who these guys are, this is Bill Dennis and Richard Eckhart. They were famous futures traders. In fact, Dennis made over 200 million trading the futures markets. several years ago, and these were business partners, and they had a little bit of a disagreement about if trading was teachable. And so they decided to kind of put that to the test. Put together a little bit of a trading incentive. They put some advertisements in like Investors Business Daily, Wall Street Journal, the New York Times, and they basically screened 1,000 applicants. They tested them on their like intelligence and their ability to manage risk. And they came up with a fairly diverse group of people. There's like a Czech Republic blackjack master, Dungeons and Dragons game designer, Air Force pilot, a evangelical accountant. But the bottom line is they put together these guys. They did a couple weeks of training with them, and they set them loose on the market. In the first 4 years, they actually grossed over $450 million, which is pretty cool. And the reason, it's just such a great story. The result was very, very successful. You know, in an interview later, trading was much more teachable than I ever imagined. In a strange way, it was almost humbling. This is what Richard Dennis said to the Wall Street Journal. Here's another one, though. I always say you could publish my trading rules in the newspaper and nobody would follow them. The key is consistency and discipline. Almost anybody can make up a list of rules that were 80% as good as what we taught our people. What they couldn't do is give them the confidence to stick to those rules even when things are going bad. So discipline is important. I also like the part where, you know, almost anybody could make up the rules. And what we're going to talk a lot about today is how do we figure out the best rules to follow? You know, you as a trader, if you're new to trading, there's literally hundreds of indicators you can choose. How can you actually kind of figure out which ones work best? And our software will help you do that. MetaStock will help you do that. But the other thing that I kind of want to get an idea of, or kind of help you understand, is how a trading method actually works. We primarily deal with technical analysis in the market. Okay, there's some reasons I like technical analysis. It generally tends to be very objective and not subjective. You're generally not trying to figure out what's going to happen because of QE6 or QE7 or the Fed rates are going to go up, that type of stuff. What you're trying to do is you're looking at kind of what's happened, what's factored into the market already. And like a weatherman, what you're trying to do is kind of determine a forecast. Determine when you think is going to be the best time to buy or sell. So to kind of illustrate exactly kind of how to make an objective method, I'm going to talk a little bit to you about the MACD system and the MACD indicator. I'm going to teach you that. It's a very, very simple indicator. There's 3 ways to analyze it. And then we're going to kind of compare that and contrast that to some other things. The MACD is a trend following indicator. I'm sure you've heard like probably today, the trend is your friend, or befriend the trend, or a rising tide lifts all boats, something like that. It's almost a cliche in the market. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about MACD. This is Gerald Appel. He developed the MACD indicator, and this is the last time I'm going to be in PowerPoint for today's presentation. Let's go ahead and get into the MetaStock program. I've got a chart of Apple that I've been kind of looking at this morning as I was kind of getting ready to talk to you guys. And I'm just going to kind of go through MACD. We're going to spend a little bit of time on MACD. I want to understand how trading mechanics or trading methodologies work. The MACD is, well, in case you're not familiar with how the MACD is calculated, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about that. Right here, I'm going to go ahead and click on my indicator quick list. This is a list of all of the indicators that are available in MetaStock, and you'll notice that it is very, very extensive. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to the moving averages. And I'm just going to kind of talk a little bit about how moving averages are put together. So I'm going to put 2 moving averages on here. I'm going to put a 12-period exponential moving average on here. Okay, 12-period exponential. Okay, I'm going to change the color and maybe even the line thickness, just so that you can kind of see it a little bit better. So let's go ahead, and I actually don't want to do that. Let's go ahead and leave that there. Okay. Let's make it a little bit thicker, okay? We'll go ahead and apply that to the chart. I'm going to do a 26-period exponential moving average as well, okay? And with MetaStock, all it is it's a drag and drop operation, so I found it on the list. and I drop it wherever I want it to appear. It's pretty easy to do. It's pretty easy to manipulate MetaStock and get the indicators that you want on here. And I'd say that's true of the whole program. Everything I'm going to show you today is very, very easy to do. Okay. Now, there are a few things that are interesting to know. When Gerald developed this, he didn't really use exactly 12 and 26, but they're pretty close. Okay. If we wanted to kind of figure out the MACD and what the MACD is, what we would take is we would take the 12 period, or the blue line, and we'd subtract it from the red line. Okay, so we take the 12 period exponential moving average and the 26 period moving average, and what we're going to get is we're going to get the value of this red dotted line. The value, this is the MACD. Okay, this dotted average line, just to kind of look at it, what this is called the signal line, and it's a 9-period exponential moving of the difference of this moving average. Okay, I said it a little bit earlier, but the MACD is a trend, and it's a momentum indicator. Okay, it's also very, very popular. Our video on YouTube about MACD gets a lot of hits. That's why I kind of decided to kind of talk about it as kind of the moving average. So as we kind of just take a look at the characteristics of this, this is designed to kind of tell you the difference between two moving averages, right? So if we're kind of in a bit of a sideways area, there's not a lot of movement on the chart, what you're going to have is a shallower MACD, okay? Just the difference between this shorter term and this exponential term moving average are going to be closer together, okay? As the stock starts to move, what you're going to notice is there's a bit of a bigger separation between the two lines, and that's why the MACD starts to go up. You can tell you're in a trend when your MACD value is rising, okay? The biggest way there's three basic ways that people analyze the MACD. The first one, and I'm going to talk about all three, okay? The first one that they look for is they look for the crossover of the MACD and its signal line, okay? So if you're looking right here and you kind of just see where this MACD crosses up above the signal line, basically that's a signal that the market is likely to start to go up. In this case, the Apple is likely to start going up, okay? And as long as it's above that line, I'm just going to kind of draw it on the chart for you. Let me put my symbol palette onto here. Okay, so here's where the cross happens approximately. We'll just put a little bit of an arrow right there. As long as the MACD is trading above its signal line, you're going to say that the MACD is currently bullish, okay? And what does that mean? Well, that means that you anticipate that the market's in a trend, and you anticipate that it's going to continue to go in a trend, okay? When it crosses back down below its signal line, then the MACD goes into a bearish state, which happened right here on a chart. Okay, so that's one of the methods that people use. They're just using a simple crossover of the MACD and the signal line. Right here, you can see where that crossover happened. And if you anticipate the stock is going to start to decline because the trend is running out, a good opportunity to take a short position because you think that it's going to kind of turn around and reverse. Okay, which it actually didn't in this scenario with Apple. It stayed underneath it, but then it started to rally again. And here you had a crossover to the top side. So that's one of the three ways that people look at MACD. They look at it just as a crossover methodology. Okay. The other two ways that people look at the MACD, I'm just going to go ahead and close this symbol palette over here, is they'll look for it to get extended. They'll use it as like an overbought, oversold indicator. So for example, when it starts to get real high, well, generally when a stock goes fast, it goes up really fast, generally at some point it's going to do a reversion to the mean type of a movement, okay? And so when this gets to an extended value or a very high value, what you're going to start to look at is the potential of a reversal or a pullback. So that's method two. That's another method, another way to kind of look at it as an overbought, oversold indicator, okay? Just checking the time. Don't want to go too long. The third, and we probably won't talk about this much, if at all, but Dr. Alexander Elder, somebody that I have great respect for in the marketplace, looks for divergence between MACD and price, okay? And just to kind of give you a quick idea of what that is, right here we had a bit of a peak in the MACD, okay? It went down below 0, which Dr. Elder says is important, and then it came back and formed another peak. So if we took a bit of a trend line, and we just drew that peak to peak on a price, what you've got is you've got kind of an upward slope to it, okay? What I would do then at that same time is actually draw a similar line between here and here. And what we see is these are generally both pointed up. They're not divergent. In other words, we don't have a divergence pattern here on the chart. If we did, it could be a bearish divergence. What we'd be looking for is a very, very good shorting opportunity. Okay, so that's the third one. Dr. Elder calls that one his favorite. He calls it, quote, the most powerful signal in all of technical analysis, unquote. So that's one of the other ones that you can look at. Okay. Now in MetaStock, what I can do, I'm going to go ahead and kind of delete this on the chart. I just want to kind of show off exactly how we can kind of keep it an idea of that on the chart. And we have a functionality in MetaStock that's called the Expert Advisor. And there's probably around 40 systems that you can actually attach to a chart that's going to kind of annotate where the buys and sells and keep a look at the chart for you. So I'll just show you this list. These are different technical systems, all of them already included, already built into the program for you. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to attach this one that calls Equus MACD. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and attach that on the chart. Go ahead and click on close. And what you're going to notice is every time we have one of those crossover signals, you're going to get a buy or a sell on the chart. Okay, when MACD starts to get a little bit extended, it's going to start to color the bars red. And if it's in a bullish or a bearish state, what it's going to allow you to do is it's just going to tell you if the MACD is bullish or bearish. Right here is a ribbon. Okay, so now we can kind of more visually see, okay, well, if I would have sold here and bought here, would that have been a good idea? Well, yeah, that would have been a really good idea. We would have made a little bit of money. If we would have bought here, well, we'd be in position here. Would have bought here and sold here, that would have made money for us. If we would have sold here and bought here, we would have probably lost money. But we get a much more visual idea of how this works. Okay. There's also a functionality in here that's called the Expert Advisor Commentary. I'm just going to open it up. And you'll notice when I do that, I just want to point your attention right here to the very last chart of the bar of the chart. You have a little bit of an arrow here. Okay. And for MACD, it's basically going to say, give you a little bit of information on the MACD. Okay, it'll look for those crossover signals. Since currently the MACD is bullish, since it traded above its signal line, the MACD crossed above its signal line 19 days ago, right here. Okay. Since then, Apple's price has increased 7%. Oh, and the MACD is not overbought or oversold. There's not MACD divergence within the last 5 bars. Okay, so I can actually kind of move this arrow around. By default, it's going to go to the very last bar on your chart. In this case, we're looking at a daily bar. But you can kind of see what it would have said in their different scenarios and different places. Okay, works very, very well. Looking at the time, I got about 15 minutes. We're going to move a little bit faster. So one of the questions that I would get from a lot of our traders, especially when I worked in inside sales, which I did for the better part of a decade, is, okay, well, there's a couple hundred indicators. I can tell that it's a very powerful software program. How do I figure out what's going to work well for what I want to do? And again, your scenario might be different, but I don't really, I spent probably 10 minutes talking about this MACD, and I can spend a lot longer about that. But how do we figure out what works well on a chart for the stocks that we're interested in? Okay. In other words, MACD might not be the best indicator to use with Apple or IBM or Dow Industrials or whatever, Forex, futures, whatever it is that you're interested in. It might also be a little bit too frequent for you. It's not trading too frequently for me. Looks like we've been in this position for about 2 weeks, this one. But how do we determine where to start, especially if you're kind of new to the market? And to do that, what I like to do is I like to focus on what's worked. And that could be what's worked last year, or over the last 5 years, or over the last 10 years, or whatever it might happen to be. And so what we have the ability to do, I'm just going to open up our Power Console, which is where you kind of run everything out of MetaStock. What I'm going to do is I'm going to actually come in here, And this basically allows you to chart. This allows you to scan the market and find stocks that might have a MACD buy signal or buy sell signal, does ranking, that kind of stuff. We're going to sit here on the system tester. It allows us to go in and say, well, what if I was just trading every one of these MACD signals on Apple? How well would it work last year? Okay, and I can do that. I can also say, well, you know, again, I'm not bought on MACD. I'm really kind of more interested in what worked really well last year. Okay, and what I've done here is you'll see the systems that are built into MetaStock. And what I've done here is I've actually went down here and I've actually put in all of the ones that are built into the software. You can create your own. You can combine them. You can add your own stops. You can do whatever you want. But what I've done is I've actually taken all of the methods that are actually in the software and I say, okay, let's see what works. Okay, and so now what I'm going to do is down here I could actually come in and I could, again, we have 381,847 instruments. If you're in Australia and you want to use this in Australia, you can. If you're in Dubai, London, there's about 200 exchanges that we cover. Yes, we cover Forex. Yes, we cover futures. Okay, but I could come in here, and one of the things I could do is I could say, well, test all of the optionable stocks. Take all of these methods and tell me how well they worked against every single US optionable stock. How did it perform? How did it work? It will tell you that. Okay. Now I'm not going to do that. That test takes about 45 minutes, which we don't really have the time. But I'm just going to key in a few instruments up here. So we'll do that DIA, which is the Dow Industrial ETF. I'll do Apple. Okay. I'll do Google. And I'll do Microsoft. Okay. You can key in as many as you want. I've just kind of put in 4. And I'm going to go ahead and take all tests. And we're going to test all the long trades, all the short trades. So we're going to do both. I'm going to go back at about 250 daily bars. And I'm going to have the software go in and tell me how well it worked over these 4 or 5 symbols and which system worked well. I have come in here and just to kind of give you an idea of how we're testing it. We started with 10, wait, that's 100,000. We'll start with $100,000 and we'll take trades, 75% of our available equity. Okay. You can also put in your broker rates. You can put in where the trades are executed. By default, it's going to do the trade at the beginning of the next day after you get the signal. Okay. You can change that if you want. We call it realistic. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. Let's go ahead and start this as a system test. I'll let it run through. It's only going to take a few minutes. So you'll notice it's going to do about 668 systems. And it's going to be done very, very quickly. It's about 68% of the way there now. Okay. And it's done. I want to show you what the report looks like. So I'll go ahead and click on View Results here. Okay. And the first screen that you're going to see here is you're going to see all of the systems. So while I did about 5 systems, this is an average of how well those systems performed over the last year on those 5 or 6 stocks. So our best performing system was this Equus Stochastic 2080 with optimization. I actually meant to take the optimized systems out because the optimized systems actually take a little bit longer to calculate, but you do have the ability to optimize these system tests if you want as well. Okay, so on average, over the last year, you trading just the stock, not buying options, not using any leveraging, trading about 75% of your account, you would have made about 15% over the last year. And that's over the basket. That's why it's called an average. That's over the 4 stocks that I keyed in. Okay, our best profit was about $3,300. Our worst profit was 67. On average, it took about 11 trades. And on average, per security, okay, on average, its batting average was 7.3 winners to 4.3 losers. Its average profit versus average loss, every time it lost $1, it gained $1.78 in a winning trade. So it gives you a pretty good idea of how well this works, okay? Down here, this one traded a little bit more frequently, okay? It made a little bit less money, 14.66. I think how this is the one I'm going to show you just because I don't have to kind of talk a lot about optimization. This one didn't have any optimized variables in it, okay? Its best profit was $24,288. Its worst profit was $7,800. On average, it traded 30 times, 29 times a year. So that's about twice a month per instrument. And again, it is a little bit, I have 10 minutes, so I'm gonna kind of go faster here. It is a little bit finding something that works for you, okay? I'm gonna go ahead and click on the view button right here, okay? Here's the stocks that I tested: Diamonds, Apple, Google, Microsoft. I'm gonna sort these based on their net profitability. Here you've got Apple. Last year it made 24,288. Trading just a stock, non-leveraged, you made about 24% on about 33 trades. What was your batting average for those trades? How often did it lose? How often did it win? 23 winners, 10 losers. Okay, pretty good. Now, again, it's about finding kind of the best one to work for you. If we had 6,000 stocks, if we had tested all the 4,500 optionables, you'd literally have 4,500 different stocks. And it would allow us, in this particular case of about 4, and say, well, Apple was the best. I'm going to focus on Apple with this system. And maybe Microsoft. All of them worked really, really well, but I want to focus on what works best and the indicator methods it works best with. Hope that makes sense for you. The name of this system is called the PS Pattern System 1. And I'm just jotting that down on my notes here so I can kind of show you how the expert advisor works with it in just a second. Okay. If I want to go ahead and click on the Apple, I can go ahead and click on View, and it's going to give me a huge report, one which I don't have time to show you much of. But it's going to tell you how your profit did. It's going to compare that to the buy and the hold. It's going to tell you exactly how many of your trades were profitable, how many of those were betting the stock would go up, and it did, all of them. And there were actually none that were betting it would go down, and it did. Okay. Our average profit per trade, every time we took a trade, was $13.8388. Our highest profit was $55.18, and our lowest profit, well, we did make $30 on one trade. Okay. Our average loss, we had 10 losers in this basket. On average, we lost 754 bucks. Our win-to-loss ratio is pretty good. There's a lot of stuff over here that's important, but I'm just not going to have the time to talk to you about. But if you click on Help right here, it will give you kind of a detailed summary of how everything is going to kind of key out in there for you. Okay, and I'm going to kind of make a huge leap right here. You do also have some other tabs up here. We'll take a look at equity. Looks pretty good on Apple. Not a lot of roller coaster, which you want to avoid when you're trading your own money. Pretty consistent. Looks like we lost a little bit of money here on our last trade. That'll be reflected when we open up the chart. But let's kind of make a leap that we kind of spent some time in here. And now we wanted to kind of maybe look at how Apple was calculated, or how the fractal system was calculated. In that particular scenario, I'm just going to go back into the expert advisor here. All those methods that we just tested are going to have a corresponding matching methodology for them. So there's that fractal system number 1. I'm going to attach it to the chart and click on Close. It's going to show me where it would have bought and sold, so I can kind of see that visually on the chart. And more, I'm just going to kind of go ahead and kind of click on this buy arrow right here. It'll tell us if there's any longer opportunities right now. You'll notice it says if you're trading short positions. Now this is referring to the actual bar back here where it told us to buy. Exit all short positions today with a market on close order. If you're trading long positions, enter long, okay, with a market on close, or open at tomorrow's opening price, okay. Also tells you a little bit about what the system is derived from. Like, while there are many definitions for fractals in securities trading, the definition used in these systems is a minor version of a type defined by Bill Williams, PhD, blah, 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 blah. Kind of tells you if you wanted to kind of learn more about this, you could kind of go look up this, or kind of look in our manuals. It'll tell you exactly what's kind of calculating the system. The other thing that you're going to get, or the other thing that you have the ability to do, so this is great for helping identify what works and what indicators you should be using. There are some other tools in the software. For example, if we came into Apple today, we had a buy signal just like 3 days ago. You know, we probably don't want to enter based on a signal that was 3 days old. It's come down. It might be a good idea to. But one of the things that we do have the ability to do, and I'll just show you this real quick, is back in this power console, you can come in here. You can say, well, you know, and again, there's tons of scans. You can build your own scans. It's fairly easy to do. But if we wanted to find a signal for stocks that have an opportunity right now in the marketplace, I could go down and let's just look at that fractal system number one. Let's go ahead and run a scan against the marketplace. Let's go ahead and look at all of the optionable stocks. I'll go, on a daily basis, tell me all of the stocks that have a buy signal. And it'll go through and actually generate a report for that for you. So I didn't have much time to talk about everything, but I hope that was not too rushed. I hope it was helpful for you. The other tab here is a forecaster. It'll statistically tell you where a stock's likely to go based on the past. We're not even going to open it. We just don't have the time, to be frank about it. So in any case, a couple of things just to recap. Again, the MetaStock program was rated, or has been rated, again this year, #1. And that's every single year since 1994, 95, 96. It's incredible. It does a really, really good job of helping you identify. The reason it's rated #1 is so useful for you. So 24 years in a row, okay? Our real-time software, MetaStock RT, has actually won that award, not as many times, but 11 years now. I need to update my slide, by the way. Okay. So how much does it cost? MetaStock's only, we have two versions. We have real-time, and we have an hourly updating daily version of the software. So what's the difference between the two? MetaStock real-time is full-on real-time. You can use it with daily and weekly and monthly, as well as hourly, 5 minutes, tick charts, whatever you want. You can also test those increments. It's a full-on streaming real-time version of the program. In addition to MetaStock, what you're going to get is you're going to get a program called MetaStock Zenith. And I'm not even going to open it. MetaStock Zenith, if you're interested in fundamental news, or I should say fundamental data and news, it's a product that they sell literally to their institutional funds, their bankers, their brokers, and it's the same access to the same platform. One of the best, I might be a little bit biased here, best software in the industry, competes head-to-head with Bloomberg. By the way, they charge, I believe their pricing, I'm going to say I believe their pricing because I don't know exactly. I believe their pricing for just Zenith by itself is about, it starts at about $1,200 a month just for that. So we're also going to include, again, we did a very, very high level view of what MetaStock is. I'm going to include a home study course for you. It has a lot of lessons. It's going to walk you through all of the stuff that I went really quick through today. It's going to include a little bit of a workbook you can look at, as well as many, many videos. But it's basically going to walk you through kind of like our favorite parts of the program, the things in the software that have helped it been rated #1 for so many years in a way. And what we're going to do is if you pay for a month, what we're going to do is you're going to give you 2 free. So basically, it's a good way, you know, it's August right now. So September, October, November, you could go ahead and sign up today, and you'll be running on this 3-for-1 trial until November 4th. I know I just did the math. I'm not sure if it was right, but it's such a long time. And then if it's something that's helpful for you, great, keep using it. If it doesn't help you in the market, then you just cancel. That's it. Okay. We also have a DC version. DC stands for daily charts. The difference between that is it doesn't stream. It's not real time. In fact, it updates about every hour during the day. You still could run a scan on daily charts during the day and see if anything's set up. But the other difference is it's $59 a month. It's still going to include that unleash the power of MetaStock, and it'll include data for the region of your choice. So the regions, just so you get an idea, are North America, South America, and Canada, basically, okay, which I guess is included in North America. But that includes stocks and futures and Forex, okay? The other regions are Europe, Middle East, and Africa, okay? Again, it includes the futures in that region and FX. And then the other region is Asia Pacific. So if you're in Australia, you'd go with the Asia Pacific region, okay? Again, $59 a month, nothing, right? $20 a month to try it for 3 months, sign up for it. It's a great program. Find out why it's been rated #1 in its price category. since 1992. 10:59, guys. www.metastock.com/traders-summit 3-for-1. I know we kind of went quick today. If you want to get a little bit more information about the program, or you have questions, I can't see questions here today, but if you have questions that I didn't answer, give us a call. We have a support staff or a sales staff that can answer any questions you've got. 800-882-3040. Includes unlimited lifetime technical support. We do have a support staff. They're also here in Salt Lake City, Utah. I get a lot of really good feedback on them. If you want to chat in, the 800 number won't work for you. Visit us at metastock.com/sales chat. To wrap up at exactly the right time, I want to say thanks for listening. Thanks for coming. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your summer, and I hope it's wonderful.